Hello and welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm here with Alan Mulligan. His fantastic film The Limit Of is out in cinemas now, so make sure to catch it. Before we get into the podcast, can you tell me a little bit about where people can see it now?
It's 3 weeks out now, so It's still in Mayo Movie World.
Very impressive though, to have a nice long
It's amazing,
release,
yeah. For an independent film, as they say,
Yeah.
it's a very difficult thing to get past the first week even. So, and then in Dublin, Savoy Cinema are keeping it.
And that's a nice old screen as well to be in there. It's like a nice classic cinema.
Yeah, it's
space,
the iconic
so,
cinema. Yeah, it's a shame Screen 1 is gone, but then I don't think we would have been filling that. You never know. Yeah. If it was there, we would have.
Okay, so first of all, I know we had chats there through Film Ireland. I checked it up in December 2017.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the last time, and I was chatting to yourself and Laurence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The lead in the film,
Yeah. So he's like, so much time has passed. And then even between himself and Sarah, the two have gone on since your film. So that the launch pad to do amazing things, phenomenal stuff.
It seems to have been the breakthrough for them. Like Sarah got nominated for the IFTA, and now there's lots of doors opening for her at the moment.
Brilliant.
And then Laurence has been in Vikings. He's been in Game of Thrones. He's been in, he was in Can't Cope, Won't Cope, Rebellion and RT. He's been in so much, really. Like since I cast him, when we cast him that time, he was in The Factory at the time, which is now Bow Street.
Yeah.
So he hadn't been in anything at the time, and just to see, it'd be very hard to afford Laurence now.
Oh, I'd say that. It sounds like, the amount of things he's had on his plate since then, how would you even fit him into his schedule?
I know,
It'd be like, you get it like from 12:30 at night until, 4:30 on a Tuesday in 4 months' time. That's your only time you have to shoot. You'll have to write a really small role. Yeah.
And be talking to his agent.
And it'd be like, he's not available. He's not available. So the last time we spoke, you were talking about the writing process, and you mentioned that this took you 18 months to write. Yeah,
in total, from the conception, I guess, of the idea. I was working in banking at the time, so I started working the script from there and writing it in my office and writing it in the evenings and at weekends. So I guess it probably, writers will hate me saying this, but it could have been written quicker.
Yeah.
But just balancing another career, which what most people were do at the time when they're writing a feature.
Yeah.
But then I did leave work once I had kind of a first draft, and then it was kind of 6 months from there. Then I finished it.
Brilliant. And how difficult was it to manage that in your schedule with writing? Because if you have a kind of pretty taxing full-time job.
Yeah, it's only when I left work that I realised just how difficult it is. But I knew that I wasn't going to get it finished properly without leaving work, because you were writing during work, so you'd do a meeting and then you'd go, right, I have an hour to spare in work, and you take it out and you just start, and you're daydreaming about it. And I'm sure any writers out there will see, you just daydream all the time, like the characters are in your head no matter where you're going. But then having to change your mindset, and in finance I had to use my mind, I guess, or your brain, so it was a very mind-orientated job. So you'd have to shift and concentrate on work for a while, and then trying to shift back into the characters again was becoming very difficult for me. And it's my first time writing a feature, so I guess that would be the most difficult part.
Creating a character like James, and it's such an internal character, how do you kind of structure him? Was he always fully formed when you were writing it, or was he someone that kind of came together as you were putting it together, or is he based on someone you know?
There's bits of all of that in it, but he came formed to a certain extent. I didn't want him to be, he was never going to tell people what he was thinking, and you were never going to know what he was going to do next, because from my experience in reality, in that you don't go around telling people how you're feeling, and you don't go around telling people what you're going to do next, especially if you're going to screw the banks over. And
especially he's a kind of very masculine character in a kind of what's perceived to be quite a masculine realm. That it's that kind of verboseness isn't necessarily promoted in that either. So he's almost a bit of a cowboy in his own way.
Yeah, a little bit
stoic.
Yeah, a little bit. And even it's like that with the mother-son relationship. he's not telling his mother how much he loves her.
Yeah.
He's not saying what he's doing to show he loves her. He's just doing it. And same with the love interest, the strange love interest in the film. But he doesn't say it, and she doesn't say it. And often I do find in real life, we don't say it. You meet someone, you think they're attractive, or you have some type of an energy with them that you feel something for them, but you don't come out and say it. So you talk around it, and I guess that's where the dialogue was, talking around it, that no one ever says what they're thinking in the film. And some reviews out there, it's very interesting when you do hear about a review that really gets that part of it, and they say that none of the dialogue says what the characters are thinking, that it's all layered. But then I guess that would be a bit that I would have really liked after it's been said about the writing.
Yeah, and getting to watch it in cinemas around the time in 2017 when we last spoke was pretty impressive enough. I know you had a very positive reaction then, but what's it been like now, like watching it go out to the world? Like, you've birthed it fully now, and it's its own beast. Like, I couldn't go by a bus without seeing it. Like, I was like, wow.
Yeah, it was impressive. Like, I remember I was on my way to Savoy for a meeting about the premiere that RT were hosting, and I was walking down O'Connell Street, and I just landed into Dublin. And as I was walking up, which is cool enough to be walking up for that meeting, and then this bus goes by me, and I was like trying to grab my phone out in time to take a photo of it. And I wouldn't be a big picture person, but I could not try grab photos.
It's very Carrie Bradshaw moment as well.
Maybe. Yeah. I wouldn't have associated myself with her, but yeah. But I think the reaction from film festivals was phenomenal. There was 3 or 4 in particular where there was like stand ovations, or it was just such a warm reception, and people really got it, and that was really exciting. But then but there's also a lot of rejection in the film festival world, because you don't have any. You're totally unknown, so you're submitting, like I'm sure lots of people listening to this will be doing. You're submitting with thousands of other films. Like, the chances are of you getting picked is a lottery. Like, so the fact that we were picked for festivals was just a dream come true. But believe me, there was lots of moments where I was going, "Oh crap! Like this, what have I done? It's not. Why is this not working?" But then you meet someone who knows someone, and they put in a call for them to look at the film. Next thing, they think it's the best film they've ever seen. But
that's funny.
If I didn't get a call put in by someone, which was all my networking, and that's what a lot of time was put into. And then for it to go out to the public has been way more interesting for me, because the feedback is much better. Like, it's because they don't care who you are.
Yeah.
I find that so interesting. Like, people crying to you, or sending emails over Facebook that I don't know, like telling me how amazing the film or how it affected them or how they related to it in certain ways.
Yeah.
Where it seems sometimes, I guess when you're unknown, it's hard for people in the film industry to take the time to appreciate what's done, because in their eyes it's a smaller film, which I'm sure, fingers crossed, if we all keep moving up, that's probably the way our mindset would go as well, because you're just busy.
Yeah, well, it seems to have an amazing response. It's, again, I think I said it at the time, but it's even more true now, because I know at the time we were dealing with the aftermath of the recession, and I think now with the housing crisis and the homelessness thing, we've actually reached peak point of the fallout of the recession. And then it seems like certain industries, your former one, are you still working in?
No, I'm not.
No? Yeah, your former one definitely kind of has a toe in that water. And the banking industries, they've all bounced fully back, but the average person on the street hasn't. And that rage against systems is kind of, it's almost more poignant now than it was 2 years ago. Yeah,
there's a certain amount within society that, like the banks say that they lending was increased by 18% last year in the country, and this is phenomenal for the growth of the GDP. And then that the banks had 1.25 billion those profits last year, and they pay 2% tax on them, but they're boasting that the country's booming now. And I'm like, it's up 18% in London. That just means all I'm looking at is all my friends going into 300 grand of debt for the next 30 years. And I'm going, that's not really booming.
They're also the people who can afford 300 grand of debt. If you look at the average industrial wage, it's said to be, and it isn't, because people have artificially high salaries now in the financing and the tech industry. But it's said the average industrial wage is about 34, 35. It's probably around 28. You can't get a 300 grand mortgage.
No, not at
28.
all. Not at
Where
all.
do you live? You have to pay, and what's deeply ironic is you have to pay more because Vulture Fund people own all the rental properties in Dublin, and they're charging like $2 grand for like a box.
Yeah,
you know, and you're it's almost like you're held to ransom.
But that goes back to the film title. I really find that very interesting. It was actually Tim Palmer, the producer of Into the West and Patrick's Day, that came on board, and we had called it Lead Us Not at the time, but I wasn't really happy with it, and Tim brought it up and said, you know, can we change the title? And I was like, well, if you can come up with something better. And then the limit of came up with because of the limit of control, the limit of greed, you know, the limit of responsibility. Because
the limit of what people can take as well. And I think it's definitely, you know, the average person who's being pushed to the edge, and that really is hard.
And that was the initial idea for the script, was a man who gets pushed to the edge that's going to break the rules of society, and you'll still empathise with him. And that was the whole idea of the initial start of the film, before he was a banker, before he was anything. Because I just did feel like society does put limits on us in so many ways, but also so does our emotions, like the limit of our anger, the limit of our desires. I think we're limited by everything and how we react to things. You know, if you're jealous, you know, some people get jealous, then they do things that they shouldn't do. You know, you have desire for someone, you have an affair, you cheat, or, you know, these things are all limit us. And I guess there are weaknesses, but also society puts a lot of limits on us.
And is very much so kind of setting things up that it's not necessarily providing the best paths for most holistic paths for people, because what's being cited is greed. Instagram, you want to look better, you want your life to look better on the outside, and it puts all this pressure on it, and it's all almost these systems that are set up that people are at the very bottom of, and they're pulled by and pushed by it and don't even necessarily realise how much so. Like, I mean, myself included, like, sure, I'd have my snap of my, you know, thing, my cocktail when I'm on holidays, and you don't realise, you know, this is actually all kind of playing into this facade that people put up. And again, it's not something that's created by us, and it's not something
a
that
hierarchy.
benefits us.
Like, it's a power hierarchy, really. Like, and I think we all feed into it as humans in society. That's naturally the way we work, and we're all becoming very educated, so we're learning how everyone else is doing everything. But the top people are always in control, and they pass it down, and they give you so much power that you think that you're powerful in your own regard, but you're only powerful enough to live your simple little life that revolves around other people's lives. And then we're all on monthly payments for all our bills. We're all on being monitored on all the social media devices we're using. Like, there's a huge other debate in that, but there's not really much we can do, because it is progression, but at what cost, I guess.
And and we think we have autonomy, and we have none, where we don't realise, you know, there's computers tallying up all the choices that we're going to make, and then selling us Facebook ads to vote for people that, you know, maybe we shouldn't be voting for.
And then and that's it. Like, we think we have choices, and we don't really, because even, for instance, there was some posts put up about this on the Limit Of website, is like, one of the banks do this advert of this elderly couple who are about 70 nearly, and it's celebrating the last day of their mortgage. And I don't know how I don't know how those ads aren't banned. I just really don't. Like, they would have spent hundreds of thousands on these adverts going around, and all they're doing is advertising for us to believe that it's okay to spend 35 years paying for your house. Like, it makes no sense. And
they're even the lucky ones. We'll talk about the people that are never going to be able to afford to get a mortgage, and there'll be a lot of them in our society.
But they sell it that way, that these people are the lucky ones, and you can be lucky like them and be successful like them. And I'm going, when did this become success? Like, when did it become success? But it becomes success because everyone's looking at it on posters all around the country. And that's only one advert there's so many others that tells us that this is the way to do it. It's same with PCP on cars. Like you see someone driving a 19 car there, they can't afford that 19 car, most of these people. It's on hire purchase, so therefore the banks are allowed lend a lot more money because you don't actually own the car and they can take it back anytime they want. That's how they got around that. The people weren't buying the cars, so scrappage deals were brought in by the government, which is them teaming up with the banks who are teaming up with the car salesmen. And then this PCP product, which is magic, means that you trade in your car to get your first 5 or 6 grand, but now scrappage covers that, so people are getting their granny's cars that aren't worth €50. They get 4.5, 5 grand. That gets them in the door. Then they get this brand 19 car, and it's on €350 or €450 a month. And then in 3 years' time, there's a balloon payment of 15,000 still left in the car. But all they want to do is that you get another car then, because you're never going to be able to afford that balloon payment. And this is and I think that's the beauty. And I know from working in bank, these people are extremely intelligent. And they sit down and they come up with products and ideas and how to lend more money to people, normal, average Joe Subs, and convince them that this is the success. And I think that's where, and I'm sure that had elements in my writing and wanting me to go into this
of you're
manipulative.
angry, but I mean the thing is everybody is angry. But we're all still part of the system. We all have to live, and we're all we're all kind of on our day-to-day life adhering to it and following it.
Sure. One of my friends, I was down there the other day, and he has an amazing house that they've built. He's an amazing family, and he has this gorgeous 19 car outside the door. But he's under pressure, and then on top of that, and I go, wow, like you're living the dream here, and the dream is he is over 350 grand over his head. Do you know, he's 40 years of age. What, on normal salaries? It doesn't make sense, but that is what makes sense, because he'd rather have that than not have it, so he's willing to do it, and the bank allow him to do it. Like if the bank said tomorrow there's only 20-year mortgages going forward, all house prices would fall by 30% immediately. Because we can't afford them then.
And if you look at the average age of people getting mortgages, I mean, it's gotten higher and higher. Like, very few people, especially because I would have worked in the arts for so long, would be in those very kind of stable jobs where you can afford to buy a mortgage. And like, you know, before people would have, you know, my parents' generation would have bought houses when they're in their 20s. Now, you're lucky if you can get a house if you're in your 30s. Like, you're one of the lucky ones if you can afford to put the down payment, to put everything together when you're getting your life together. And it's kind of pushing it further and further back. It's making it really, really expensive. And then some, you know, after a certain point, you can't get a mortgage. There's people who are, you know, in their 60s now who'll be living in very unsafe rental accommodation where they don't have that security. They could be turfed out at any time. And then you think, like, what way is that to retire? I mean, and how are they going to live when they retire? The government's going to have to do something. Because if the housing price, but again, they don't have to deal with this. This government will be gone by the time this problem.
It's all about GDP and increasing that GDP.
But anyway, this is why this film really, it just taps into that anger. And it really, it's kind of like this visceral kind of bubbling rage that people have, because we all know that situation is there, and why it is, again, just so perfectly timed to be.
But we just have to accept it. But even another thing that's touched on in the film is the role of carers for people. And I really think this is another element that's not talked about, because all these things aren't popular to talk about. But we're an aging population, so when we're all 70 plus, there's not going to be enough young people around to be paying the taxes to pay for us to be looked after. And who is going to look after us? And a lot of us now aren't having kids. There's people separating, more people living single in their elder age now.
Because you can't afford kids. If you're renting, you can't afford kids. You can't afford a 3-bedroomed house. Or
by the time people get to where they're going in their life, like you said, people used to buy the house in their 20s. Now it's kind of going into mid-30s. People don't want to have kids till they have their house, till they have that. And then, unfortunately, there's that ticking clock that it means that people, and maybe they haven't met the right person at the right time, but it just is becoming a much more popular thing of people not having these kids and
just getting dogs.
Well, they can't look after you though when you're older. Unfortunately, like there is that thing. So that element is touched on in the film as well, which I think, and that's why there was 2 festival screens in particular, like a huge debate afterwards about this element of it. But there were actually, I remember one of them was Cape Cod, and it was an older generation that was in the audience. And before the screening, I went to my brother, like we were both there, I go, oh my God, like, everyone here is, 50 plus.
Yeah.
Is this our market? Like, and they actually gave us the nicest reception, and afterwards the Q&A was amazing. And we went on and on and on. And then after like 45 minutes, they said, look, we have to stop the Q&A. Like, and then people hung around asking questions. But they were really concerned about that part of it, and they thought that it was really poignant with the time, because they're even feeling it now. Imagine what we're going to feel when we're in that and we don't have our kids,
Yeah.
Because that's where a lot of it came from, is like friends of mine gave up their careers and went home to mind their parents for a few years.
Yeah, that's actually a very common thing as well. You hear about people that emigrated, and then what are they going to do? They have to come back.
Yeah.
Like,
because they have kids or they get sick, and then they have to move home because people can't mind them. And like, that's why family unit is so important. And at the core of this is that love of a family, I think, and then maybe replacing that love of family with someone new. But that takes trust. And
are you sick of talking about these issues now? Like, I presume these just come up all the time with this film. That you're like, and my next film is going to be about like adorable cats,
no, but I think
MacGuffin.
part of me thinks, and I know that behind closed doors, there's been the conversation with me of, I remember one distributor sat down with me and went, the film kind of has a lot of things to say about society. And I went, it kind of does, but it's still in an entertaining manner. Yeah. And he was like, I don't know if that's such a good thing, Alan. Like, maybe for the next one, maybe don't do that. And I found it really interesting, because we do encourage people to say things about society, but then when it comes to putting it out there in the mix, no one wants to offend anyone. And it's not really offend, it's not that debate. It's no one wants to put their name behind something that's saying something.
Yeah,
because
they're afraid to take a side.
Yeah, and now it's, because if you do, it's not about, it used to be you just put out a film and it was about whatever. Now it's like, do you stand for that? Is that what you're standing for? And you're like, that's not, it's an entertaining film, it's a film,
This conversation actually came up a lot about the pro-choice when the referendum was on, and there was like a certain amount of films came by. It's amazing films. It's hard to get funding for something of that theme when you're tackling with something like abortion, and B, people were anxious about, if you fund this film, is your production company going to be like, this is a political affiliate now, and might close certain doors? Or do you make a stand and you say, this is who you are?
We had one company who was coming on, and their proposal was that they'll do everything, they'll put the money behind it, but they won't put their brand on it.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the content of the film. And I was like, the content of the film isn't that strong, so it was really a strange one, but yet they wanted to come in, and I was like, but I guess these are the conversations you're having behind the closed doors, but I don't necessarily think that it's the public they're worried about.
Yeah.
It's the
funders.
It's the funders and other people within the industry that they're more concerned about, because the public don't. And that's why I remember in that meeting I went, public don't care. The public don't care. They just want to go in and watch a film.
They don't
they don't know who
behind the scenes.
They don't
politics.
know who's behind it. They don't know who's behind it. Yeah.
That's actually very interesting. And getting it out there. So again, I mean, the run has been phenomenal. It's incredible. How difficult was the sales process there for distribution?
It was.
Because it was a while.
It took a while. Yeah, but then I was at home minding my father with my brother at the time as well through it. So that would have definitely put the brakes on it a bit in terms of networking. Because, like I said, for me, the networking becomes a part of it. So many people, and the beauty of it as well is we got the certain festivals and won certain awards, which was great. And a lot of people already knew about the film. A lot of the distributors and people had seen it. And then when you get that and you come back to them again, but it was giving them a chance to get to know the people who made the film, really. Because there's a trust there, because you can't just walk into an industry and expect to be backed. So I fully understood why it wasn't getting there, and they all were like, it's a very good piece of work. It deserves to be out there.
Yeah.
but let's hold for now, you know.
And that time actually probably worked well because the careers of the stars really elevated, where you'd be like, well, I know him, you know.
Yeah, so people
I've
started
seen
to get
her
to know
on
them.
TV. Yeah. So then it's easier sell for the public to go see it as well. Because,
it's all those cards fall into place, and it's just people getting familiar with it. It's like I hadn't made a feature before, and I was very new to the filmmaking industry, so I'm knocking on these doors saying, how are you? I have a film, and they don't even know who you are, like, so they kind of reluctantly take a meeting, but then next thing you're at some other event, you meet someone else, and they're going, you know what, you should meet this guy or this girl. And then I'm set up for a meeting with them, and I'm going, I've already met them because I banged on their door. But then you're welcomed with open arms the second time because you're now vouched for by someone else.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. But I get it. It's the same thing with friendship circles. It's like you don't just talk to the first person who walks into the bar.
Yeah.
But if someone comes up and your friend comes up to you, or someone that you work with comes up and goes, oh, you should meet Elaine. Yeah. Lane's really good. It's almost like the mafia, like, you know, this is my friend.
Yeah, I know him.
And you know, you say that, and you go, okay, and then you're open to that person. And I think that's a lot of it is it's trust, because everyone's fighting for their own
for a small pot as
survival.
well.
Yeah. So then, and they have to work with people that, and as well, it's a real intimate affair when you're get into making these films or getting into distribution. You become best friends, you know, almost, but it's business friends. So they have to spend a lot of time with you, and they have to trust that you're not going to screw them over, basically, you know. And that does happen. Some people change their mind on things and they start making decisions that you're not happy with, and that's very difficult. So I guess everyone has to suss that out at the start. So that's why, like, many times, even people who worked on the film, I'll get calls from other directors or producers now, and they'll say, oh, I see whoever worked on your film, what were they like? You know, and then I go, oh, they were amazing, or, you know, because they want to know, like, what were they like, because they're about to hire them for a 30-day shoot, or, well, no one gets 30 days here, but a 20-day shoot, and they don't want to hire someone that they think they might have problems with 10 days in. Yeah,
and that's it. It's, again, it's such a high stress scenario being on a set. Like, I always feel everything that always goes wrong can, and then 10 other things on top of that. And you just have to be able to deal with it. And then when people start taking egos into the room, and those egos clash, it can be a fresh hell as well. But definitely it's very important to work with your friends. So what now is on your slate? Like, what have you been doing? Have you been working on any other projects? Have you been coming up with
we have this
the limit of 2?
No. I think that's done.
Or reach the edge there?
Put the banks to bed, I think. But myself and my brother are writing this TV series at the moment, which is like GA meets Peaky Blinders.
Brilliant.
And that's probably ready to go for funders soon.
Excellent.
And then we have done a TV game show that we created with Morgan Bush of Fastnet Films as well. So myself, my brother and him, and that's teamed up with Chinawil Larry Bass, who does Dragon's Den, and is it Dancing with the Stars is the Irish one, isn't it?
I think so,
He was and that's just been signed with a LA production at the moment. Brilliant. Within the last month. So that's been developed in LA at the moment. So that's kind of really cool, and it's a break from film making, because filmmaking is so intense and it really is like your baby. So you're so protective. Every single little decision hurts. But with the game show, it's enjoyable in a way that someone else has inputted, want to change something, and you're going, oh yeah, cool. You know, as long as we might get it, you know, we get it made, and, you know, I guess it's more a money vehicle if that works out.
Well, that would be great as well. And it's old storytelling at the end of the day. Like, it is everything from a game show to a documentary to a film to an ad. Is you're constructing a story, you're finding the most best way to present it, you're finding stories and nuances within it that people can relate to. So it's good as well, because it's stimulating a different part of the grey matter as well. So I find that really interesting, because I guess my strength seems to be getting tension in a scene between people, and a game show where they're competing
is tension as well, and it's like the way the game show is set up is based on psychological tension between strangers.
So that thing where two strangers are in a room, you close the door and their tension levels both rise? That's
it's not exactly that, but it's along that lines where there's strangers and they're competing against each other in different ways, but it's to do with a voting system, so it's quite psychological.
Cool. Okay,
which works well.
Very interesting.
And it's called Fallout, which is a great name. I think.
Yes, it is, like the video game. That's got a fab repercussions, elicits interesting kind of tense thoughts of like definitely high drama there. What would be, say, the next feature film if you were to attach this again? Or actually, no, I'm going to phrase that differently. If you were to go back to the you in the past, because it's 2 years now and you've actually done a lot of different projects, what would you have done differently shooting this?
It's a tough question, and I'm not going to take the bait, so to speak, on it, because I think when I do think back, every time I go, I would like to do that, but I couldn't have. I would like to, have the camera spin in on a dolly system for that shot, but I couldn't do that. So I really don't. I guess the only thing I would have done is, and I was advised at the time by people on the crew, was to cut certain scenes during the filming. And I refused to. And it ended up in the edit.
Floor, anyway.
Certain of those scenes went to the floor anyway, because they weren't essential to the plot. And I guess it was my first time going through it, where they probably had more experience than I did. And they were like, you could probably do without that scene. It like, we're under pressure. And I go, we're not missing a scene. So I would have put a lot of people under pressure to get all the scenes done. Where they weren't all needed,
Okay. And actually, that just reminded me of another question that I wanted to ask about writing the script. So when you were doing your drafts, did you have a partner that you could show it to and then you would go back and edit it? Or was it something like you were like, this isn't right, I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it again? Or would you get feedback from different sources?
I was lucky in the sense I was living on the quays there in town in an apartment. And I guess I'd left the bank then when I left the bank that time, so you're just sitting around an apartment, so it was really handy for coffees. And I would have had a friend that I met probably every day or every second day, and she was really good for just bouncing ideas off. So, or even, and obviously my brother was in particular the biggest one, because he was producing it, but I'd be on the phone to him, but you'd ring him at 12 o'clock at night and go, that scene here, what do you think of this? Or he'd do the same, he'd ring me and go, I was thinking what you could do with your line of dialogue to get out of that scene is this. So I would definitely very much bounce off people all the time. Like even, a few 5 minutes after I have an opening scene, have in my head, I can tell you it and we can get some feedback. But I'm very open to, as long as you're not giving away a big twist to certain people, I think that being open with people and talking about a scene is great to get feedback and see if they're intrigued, and if they're not intrigued, usually I go home and I change it.
Because you were saying that about how yourself and Lauren the last time workshopped James in some ways, and how he kind of contributed to that character. So it's such a collaboration. But it's interesting, especially when you revise so much. And
that would be a nice thing actually, to go back to that other thing of doing something different as well. But then it's a time constraint. Is there were certain things on set where I had a certain way with Laurence or with Sarah or with Ali or Sonia, and fair play to them, they would do it the way they'd work at whatever they do in their own heads to make it seem true. But then other times they'd want to do something their own way, and I'd give them one take, and a lot of times. And I remember with Laurence, there's two things in particular that I remember filming and going, that's not going to make it in, the other way is better. And then in the edit, his two ways came in, and it was like, wow.
It's amazing how different
because he was in the character.
When you're looking in a room at a screen than when you're on set, and it's like, I don't know, there's just something different can happen, and it's amazing because he obviously had that.
Well, I think actors just get into the character in a way at that time probably more than I'd be able to be into the character. So a certain thing I have in my head on the day doesn't play exactly true to the character's emotions in that scene, and that's where Laurence or Sarah and these other amazing actors that we had would bring theirs to it. And so often that impressed isn't the word, but it did impress, but surprised me, I guess, because I would have had something so fixed in my head.
And if you were to say pick 4 things that you learned while shooting that, what would they be? 4 is arbitrary. You can pick however many you want. If you've 2, you have 2.
There's a lot of things.
There's a lot of things. But there's loads of things. Like, they could be little things, like how to get the best out of actors, nice little aesthetic tips, anything. 1 is fine. Because it's a baptism by fire.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
and that's why
I was thinking you'd have 1,000. You'd have to narrow it down to 4. Yeah.
So much learning in it, and I guess a lot of it is dealing with people, you know, and understanding their jobs and what they do and what they bring to the table, and that would have been difficult for me conveying my vision, because it's my first time conveying vision of this size to people, and I probably would have struggled a little bit with that, but we got there in the end, but it was probably tougher than it needed to be.
And how important are your relationships with your department heads?
Oh, like you live or die by them, to be honest, like, you know, so if you don't have, and I would say, like, in particular, there's 5 or 6 heads that were on this film, and if one of them was gone, you're in trouble, you know, because you really do, like you said, it's problem after problem, and so many people on the set aren't, and I would say that's the biggest thing I learned is you keep the problems to yourself and the main group of people, and that's where they would have your back in it, but then when things go wrong, they understand why something's gone wrong or what's being fixed in the background, like, and you're protecting certain people. It's a strange thing to say, like, but it's like I might make a personal mistake on the set. The heads know I made the mistake. Yeah. But it can't be said there's this mistake made. It's like, right, we need to fix this. So then certain things get delayed, or we're shooting some other scene that we weren't meant to shoot. But it's all to protect this mistake. And it can it's me sometimes, it's others sometimes, and it's some people who don't even realise that there was a problem or a mistake that's kind of messed up the morning. Yeah. But there's this thing, and I see it some others where there ends up being a blame game, and it's not. And I was very lucky with the heads that I had. They're all very competent in that regard and very trustworthy, because because it was an indie film, we spent so much time together beforehand in pre-production and talking about the script, going through everything, that you get that trust, and almost like a friendship really is what you get out of them. So on set, you know you're protected, and I guess, like, who said that? Mel Gibson said it in one interview, and it's been said a few times as well in others I've heard, it's like going into battle and you have your army with you. Yeah. And if your army is not a good army that's out to help protect you, then you're going to get crucified, you know. Or
stabbed in the back.
So, and I guess, and it's nothing, it just, these things tend to happen. So I was very lucky with who we had, and that kind of set the tone, and a lot of people were protecting you, I guess, is what they do. Where it's different if you're a well-known director or filmmaker, you're automatically kind of protected or respected, is kind of thing. Where when you're down in the, you know, you're making the sandwiches almost as well, like, you know, it's.
Well, if your brother was producing it, is that helpful as well?
Yeah, because obviously you can have very frank conversations with him.
I was going to say, you can be like, I need the money for this. I want explosions everywhere.
But you have you have arguments, but you know that, and that was it's a big benefit even going forward now. I mean, him working together is, you can have extremely frank conversations, and it's never ever going to hurt our relationship. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, the two of us want to make films, and that's all we want to do. So the personal side of it isn't in it, because we grew up together. We know each other inside out, so we can get mad if you do something wrong, and or, you know,
or if someone got the nicer ice cream.
Yeah.
Because your brother is. That's where the original friction started.
Yeah. So we'd go at each other, and then 5 minutes later you're laughing, and it's fine again. But I guess you know, if you don't have that type of relationship, sometimes it can be difficult. That I see it can cause frictions.
So thanks so much, Alan, for coming and chatting with us here in Film Ireland. Thank you so much.